here we
give
are
him another day.
More than 2 weeks into her campaign, Mark. I said this on the air the other day. You go to her website, there's not a single policy position on there. You have no idea. I actually don't know where Kamala Harris stands on virtually anything. The trans stuff, I assume, because she's been vice president for 4 years. So I'm going to attach her to what Joe Biden did, which is just about as radical as you can get, though there's one step further you could go. And Gavin and Tim Walz have gone there. But she doesn't put out anything. Like, there's no policy positions. There's just a bunch of Kamala Harris photos in pride gear. That's literally what she's running on at the moment. And the so-called vibes. That's kind of more what we heard last night. How much longer can she go without sitting down? Look, MSNBC is not going to do it. Going over to super friendly territory. They're not going to ask questions that the world wants answered. They're only going to cater to hardcore Dems. That's probably the only step she'll do, though. Am I wrong?
No, look, she's got working for her people who are geniuses at understanding the biorhythms and rhythms of the press and of the public. Brian Fallon, for instance, is one of her communications people. They know what the traffic will bear. They know exactly how to measure every day. Do we need to put her out? And where do we need to put her out? It's like a very careful calibration. So can we put her on a friendly podcast with a celebrity and then go to the press and say, hey, she's doing interviews. She's just not doing interviews with you, the political media. Do we need to do anything at all? Or do we need to put her on 60 Minutes where you can typically get a pretty friendly interview if you give them the first exclusive? So they're measuring it every day, and the clock is running, and it's not really in their interest to have a policy debate. This election to me now is pretty simple. The Democrats want it to be about personality, vibes, momentum, and Donald Trump's a bad guy. And the Republicans want it to be about policy differentials, right? They want it to be about the Biden-Harris record on immigration, inflation, crime. And so for her to do interviews or put policy positions on the website is to play right into the hands of what the Republicans want the race to be about. So you say she can't do it. I think she can, unless the press decides, that she has to. And right now the press is back to rooting for her.
Yeah, they're in on it in a way, not openly conspiratorial, but they're totally fine with running cover for her. So now this will be the third election of Kamala and or Joe Biden where we've been prevented from really hearing from and seeing them pressed on their policy positions. He was the basement campaign in 2020, thanks to COVID, and now we know other issues. Then he ran again in 24, and he was hidden from us until he wasn't, and the campaign fell apart. And now she takes over and is the stealth candidate once again. The American people are electing what? We don't elect vibes. We need somebody who we trust, who we understand, we can get behind their policies or we can't. I don't know what this says about us, Mark, that we seem to be ready to allow this.
Well, every election's different. Why would we, quote, be, quote, ready to allow it? Part of it is because the other candidate's Donald Trump. And all the press and a very high percentage of the American people will take any steps, including ignoring the mental and physical decline of the incumbent president, to make sure Donald Trump is beaten. That's just a reality of the mindset of the Democratic Party and its allies in the dominant media. Right now, as I said, they know exactly how to calibrate whether she needs to answer any questions and whether there'll be debates or not, whether she'll do interviews or not, press conferences. Now, I will say, if she does those things, don't assume it's going to cause her political damage. She's always been underrated because of the public image she's developed as vice president. But leaving aside the questions of whether it would hurt her political chances, obviously, as you've suggested, it'd be great to know where she stands on, say, China or tax cuts or anything else beyond just saying, well, she's got the same positions as Joe Biden. But I'm not optimistic about it because it's not in her interest at this point and may not be till after the election for her to talk and answer questions.
We're going to get to November 5th. We'll have no idea what the policies are. At best, we've had a campaign spokesman issue a paper statement saying she disavows this position from 19 and that position from 19, all of which she could get out of and say the person was confused, that she didn't speak for me. I never said. I mean, we have no idea what we're looking to elect. Let me go back to Tim Walz for a second, because one of the roles of the vice presidential candidate is to be the attack dog, and he was. including some very low blows. There have been low blows on the other side as well. Very aware of that, including from the top of the ticket. But here's how he sounded last night.
Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, JD studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on. That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there?
See what I did there? Repeating the smear, totally false and debunked lie. The guy who started the lie has already given interviews talking about how he lied about JD with some couch just to besmirch the man. And now you have the vice presidential candidate repeating it. Listen, and before I get too high on my horse here, I lived through Donald Trump suggesting Ted Cruz's father had assassinated JFK. Another lie. So I'm not claiming that there's any high ground there. But as a citizen, I get the right to object. And by the way, I haven't seen JD Vance engage in this kind of behavior. I mean, they are so threatened by his background, Mark, that what kind of a guy from the heartland goes to Yale? That's so dishonest. If you read his memoir or know anything about the guy, it's a miracle he wound up at Yale. He was a child of abuse. No dad, drug-addled mom, man after man in the house, including very abusive domestic violence things he witnessed and was potentially part of. And somehow, after joining the Marines, found himself at Ohio State and managed to do so well because he was a smart kid. He got a break and got into Yale, where Amy Chua took him under her wing. That is so gross. I guess I shouldn't be grossed out because politics are gross.
Well, again, lots to unpack. I'd say I want to make two statements that make so people clear where I come from. I'm not here for rooting for either side or rooting against either side. I'm for the American people. So when I make analytical statements about where I think things are, they're not because I want one side or the other to win. I just want the American people to win. And there's a difference between what is and what ought to be. What is I don't think Governor Walz will make that joke again. I think it's way off brand for him. He'll continue to make little jibes about the Republican ticket, but I don't think he'll make that joke again, would be my guess. Other people will. As you said, the Republican Party under Donald Trump is in no position to be on their fainting couches over personal attacks from the Democrats. Just zero credibility to do that. I will say this. I think it's not a purposeful Democratic plan, but the Republicans are burning up days on social media and from the Trump campaign going after Governor Walz. I don't believe they'll win the election going after Governor Walz. There's no history of that. Most Republican strategists I know with records of winning would like every remaining day, the message from Donald Trump on down, to be the record of Harris and Biden on the economy, inflation, immigration. And so as a political matter, a lot of people are upset about that lame joke from last night. But a lot of Republicans tell me we got to avoid getting caught going after the little shiny object every day, particularly from the bottom of the ticket, as opposed to the top of the ticket.
The ability to provide for your family has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years, as you know. When you go shopping, you're getting less, but spending the same. You might have to decide what to buy and what to do without. But I want to tell you about American Financing. If you are a homeowner, they will take the equity you've built up and use it to pay off your high interest debt. They are saving customers an average of $854 a month, and they're closing some people in as fast as 10 days. Start today, and you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Call American Financing to see what they could do for you. The number is 888-528-1219, 888-528-1219, or go to americanfinancing.net/Kelly. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.